Xbox just announced today that going forward, all of their first-party exclusive games, so your Halos, your Gears, your Forzas, your Sea of Thieves, and Crackdowns will all be going day one into the Xbox Game Pass. Now, of course, this has its positives and its negatives, but this could be an industry-changing moment, not only for Microsoft, but for the entire industry in general. Sony and Nintendo, all the different third-party publishers like Ubisoft and EA, I'm sure they're probably looking at this and thinking, how is this going to change the future of gaming? Not only them, but places like GameStop, places like Best Buy, Amazon. It has large industry-shaking ramifications, and I want to talk about it right now. What is going on, guys? Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another video. And sorry this video is coming out a little bit late. You know, I tried out some VR last night, and I actually came down with the case of vertigo, which I normally get once a year, so I'm not feeling my best. I honestly wasn't going to make a video today, but when I got up, I saw this information, and it's too big to ignore. So any other day, I would have just not made a video today because I'm not feeling my best. But I had so many people hit me up wanting to hear my take about this. And here we're going to go. There's a lot of things that we have to talk about because this is a potentially huge move or potentially catastrophic failure. So if you go on Xbox Wire, Phil Spencer, the head of gaming at Microsoft, at Xbox, he posted an article, Xbox Game Pass expands to include new releases from Microsoft Studios. Now, you guys recall Microsoft launched Xbox Game Pass in June of 2017. It's a service that you basically pay $10 a month and you have access to over 100 games. Right now, the service features around 160 games, and that includes games like Halo 5 and Gears of War 4 and ReCore, like Xbox exclusives. There's also some third-party games on there, like Mad Max and Dead Rising 3, Dead Island, the Resident Evil games. It also has a lot of 360 backwards compatibility games to reach that total of 160. I thought when they originally announced it, it was a great deal. They were going for that Netflix style of gaming, you know, like on-demand content. And what separates this from PlayStation Now is that this isn't streamed. This is basically you can download the full game to your hard drive and play, you know, the games at your heart's content until you decide to cancel your subscription or the game is removed from the service. I think there's only like 2 cases so far of a game being removed from the service. But of course, people were always wondering, hey, you know, we would like newer games in the service, like because Halo was in the service a year after it came out, or almost 2 years. Same thing with Gears. It's basically older content that people haven't discovered or maybe passed on. But people always wondered, we want new content. And then today, of course, they make the announcement that moving forward, we plan to release all new Xbox One exclusive games from Microsoft Studios into Xbox Game Pass on the same date as their global release. This means that when Sea of Thieves launches on March 20th, it will be included in Xbox Game Pass to all members. This plan to bring new games timed with their global release into Xbox Game Pass not only includes announced titles like Sea of Thieves, State of Decay 2, and Crackdown 3, but future unannounced games from Microsoft Studios, including new iterations of our biggest Xbox One exclusive franchises such as Halo, Forza, and Gears of War on the same day they launch. So there you go. Halo 6, Forza Horizon 4, Forza Motorsport 8, and basically Gears of War 5 all confirmed in a roundabout way today on Xbox Wire. Now, I did a lot of thinking around this stuff, and I've seen a lot of positive comments regarding this deal today on, you know, Twitter and all the different forums I visit, and also some negative, right? Because there's always going to be positive and negative reactions to something as game-changing as this. And honestly, it's risky, but it's also huge news because this changes how the way Microsoft is going to deliver their first-party content going forward, and that's always risky. Now, there's two scenarios here about why they did this, right? Scenario one being they're putting their games into Game Pass because they feel that Game Pass hasn't taken off and they want to give it that extra boost by putting their newer games in there. I don't really think that's the case, but it's a viable explanation. Although you would kind of worry about them sacrificing the retail revenue of their exclusive games to try to support this service. So I don't really jive with that one, but it is an explanation. And the other one is like, this is just the continued approach of their games as a service mantra. Xbox Game Pass is a service. They want to, make it bigger and better. And Xbox Game Pass maybe is doing way better than we all know. And Microsoft sees the potential of putting games in there, of even driving the service even more. Because even today, I see people who aren't necessarily Xbox fans being like, yo, I'm getting an Xbox and I'm signing up to the service. $10 a month to play all these games plus all the exclusives day one is a very attractive option. And sure, people are going to game the system. Of course, you already know people are out there are going to say, this basically means that all Microsoft exclusives are $10. For $10, I can subscribe on March 20th and play Sea of Thieves to my heart's content for that month, and then unsubscribe. And then resubscribe when State of Decay 2 comes out and play that for a whole month and beat it and unsubscribe. And then resubscribe to Crackdown 3 when that comes out. Play it and beat it. And sure, you can do that. I'm sure people do that with Netflix and other services. They only subscribe when the content is out that they want to get. But I think that's the minority of people. I think most people kind of subscribe and forget. I mean, that's how Netflix and all these other places get you. You subscribe for a low price to watch something that you want to watch, and then you forget about it because the charge isn't that big. It's only $10. You're like, it's not that big of a deal. Now, of course, you kind of have to compare this to Netflix and other types of digital media. We know digital is getting bigger and bigger by the year, right? But we've never seen something this huge happen, because this, like I said, this is going to change how Microsoft approaches not only selling their games, but maybe even how they make their games. And let me explain a little bit of my thinking here. The music industry shifted from selling CDs to like $1 model of singles on Apple to basically Spotify, a subscription-based service. The movie industry, which was largely about being a movie into the theater for a long time, basically movies aren't in theaters for more than 3 months anymore. Then they come out on DVD and Blu-ray with usually an exclusive window for digital, and you can easily rent a movie for $5 at Comcast or any of these sort of places. Even books with Kindle, you can download all that stuff. The digital landscape has changed pretty much every industry that deals in any sort of entertainment. And we always assumed it would happen to video games, right? But it really hasn't, at least not until now, because while you could buy Crackdown 3 for $60, those prices were the same. It was $60 for the physical copy, $60 for the digital copy, both on the same day. There was no transformative catalyst like iTunes or Netflix. You were basically getting the same package. It was just a matter of physical or digital. Now with this, the price goes from $60 to $10. And it's no longer something you own. It's a subscription service. This is so huge that I'm even having trouble wrapping my mind around the ramifications about this. Because for a long time, people have complained that I would like to go digital, but physical makes sense because I can get it for $48 with Gamers Club Unlocked or something from Amazon. I can resell the game when I don't want it and get some money back, right? And digital was always stuck at 60, even though they have deals from time to time, like the holidays. At launch, Crackdown would cost $60 when you could get it for cheaper at physical and have the option of reselling it. Now that argument is kind of thrown out of the water, at least on the Xbox side, because now you can get Crackdown 3 for $10. Now it becomes significantly cheaper to get and play Crackdown than it ever would have been. So that changes a lot of the talk. And it's amazing to me to see Microsoft go fully down this road, because you know they're going to take a short-term hit. You know they're going to take a short-term hit because people are going to cancel their Sea of Thieves, State of Decay 2, Crackdown 3 physical copies where they make a lot of money, and then they're going to sign up for this $10 service. So they are going to take a major, probably significant short-term hit to their financials in order to boost this potential huge money-making service, Xbox Game Pass. Because if you can get people in there and buy the games and keep them subscribed month on month, year for year, they'll make more money out of this than they ever would out of the games. And honestly, even if you do the math, like I know Porter Rock had a video going over the PlayStation 4 attach rate and what it actually means, how many people buy a game per year. And he had done it where it was like PlayStation sells this amount of games, it's their attach rate, divided by how many years it's been out. The average PlayStation consumer buys about 2 games a year. And I would imagine the numbers are realistically similar to Xbox's. Like the Xbox's numbers are similar to PlayStation's, where basically Xbox gamers only buy 2 games a year. So, and more than likely, those games are a third-party game, like Gears of War, or not a Gears of War, but like Call of Duty and FIFA. A lot of people weren't going to buy a lot of these exclusives. Maybe they buy one, maybe they don't buy a second, maybe that's all they're looking for. But now, if you can get those people who never were going to buy any of these games anyways, but get them into a subscription-based service, now you're making money off of people for those games that they had no plans of ever making. So I can see it from that way of how Microsoft is looking at this as monetizing a segment of users on their platform that don't buy their exclusives. It works out. Now, you got to also think about the way the industry is moving, games as a service. I think I've said before that I see Microsoft moving in the games as a service direction. In fact, I thought that was what all their future first-party games would be, was more of like the games as a service type stuff, like Overwatch, Rainbow, stuff like that. And look, we all know publishers have been looking for a way to bring as many possible players into a game or an ecosystem as they can, but nobody wants to raise the price of a game above $60. It's been at $60 for such a long time, right? They don't want to upset anybody by raising it to $70 or $80, but they also want to make the price as low as possible so everybody can actually get into the game and spend money, right? And a $60 entry point can be very daunting for a lot of people, and a lot of people, for especially a new IP, they may just wait for a sale, or they may not pick the game up ever. Now, with this $10, since $10 is a small price to a lot of people, they look at this and be like, you know what? I'm going to jump in. I'm going to jump in at $10, and I'm going to try out all this content, and who knows, maybe you are subscribed for a long time, and you know that each one of these Microsoft first-party games, whether it's Sea of Thieves, State of Decay, Crackdown, Halo, Gears, you name them all, they're going to have some sort of multiplayer or online focus. Not saying that single player is going away, because as we know, Halo is going to have a single player. You all remember the rumors about Fable 4, and how that's very strong going to be single player and character focused, but obviously probably have some sort of co-op in it, just like Sea of Thieves will. So they want to get you hooked into that aspect to keep you playing and paying money. And of course, studies have showed that when you lower the price of entry to a game, if you're paying $10 for something, you're more inclined to maybe spend money on microtransactions within that game. And that's how another way they can basically monetize the base by continued post-launch content and updates and monetization and all that stuff. Now, with that all said, I did have some concerns, of course, about all this. I mean, I think it's great. It's such a consumer-friendly move to people to be offering your first-party games in a service for as low as $10. You know, people will game it, of course. People will subscribe, beat it, and unsubscribe. But I think that's the minority. People are really excited about this. Even fans that aren't of Xbox. But there is some little negatives that I had to think about and we have to address in the video. Is now I'm kind of curious to see how remotely profitable any of like the Halo Gearses or any of these games with huge budgets are going to be that would normally get you a shit ton of money in that first like launch month at $60, because you are essentially throwing away a good portion of those. Now, of course, I don't really know the metrics of it, how much they're going to lose in retail sales versus how much they gain in subscriptions. I mean, I'm sure their bean counters at Microsoft have analyzed that, and maybe, you know what, maybe I'm over kind of analyzing this. Maybe not a lot of people do cancel their subscription. Because honestly, there's not a lot of gamers out here on Twitter or watching YouTube that probably will never even know about Xbox Game Pass, even if it's directly advertised to them on the dashboard. So maybe a lot of people won't even know about this, and they'll continue to buy games the way they've always bought games, which is physical from Best Buy, GameStop, Amazon. So maybe it doesn't affect their retail stuff as much as I would think. I mean, I don't know. I don't have the data, so that was just kind of a thought I had. Something else I thought about, which I've seen people talk about, is does this devalue a lot of Xbox's first-party games in a lot of people's eyes? Why would you ever buy an Xbox game at retail if you can get that game for $10 plus all future Xbox exclusives and more for $9.99 a month? I mean, I've seen people say you'd be stupid to buy Sea of Thieves at $60 when you can get it for $10. And I guess that's really up to you. Does it devalue Xbox and Xbox One exclusives in your eyes now that it's basically $10 a month, or maybe even like free to play? I mean, it kind of seems like that. I mean, to me, no. It doesn't devalue it to me, but you know, this announcement really doesn't change anything for me. I was going to get all these games regardless, and I am subscribed to Xbox Game Pass, but I didn't really think I was going to get them through this. But I could see how a lot of people look at this and be like, well, now these games have been completely devalued to me. So that is something, of course, to think about. And the other issue is here is like, does this mean that they're going to decrease the budget of first-party games to compensate for lost revenue? Or will they have to add tons of microtransactions, DLC, loot boxes, and stuff? And that's, you know, worthy of discussion. You know, we all know it takes a lot of money to build a lot of first-party games. Halo's not cheap to build. Gears isn't cheap to build. I'm assuming the Fable isn't cheap to build. And now you're losing that retail revenue, that millions of copies you're going to sell at $60. You know, are you going to make up for that with additional microtransactions and loot boxes? Does this mean that you're going to see kind of less graphical, intense games going forward? Interesting questions. I still think that there'll be more first-party games. Actually, let me rephrase that. I think they will be building and releasing more first-party games going into the future than they have done recently, right? And I'll talk about that point in a minute. And the other thing I wanted to say is, like, does this announcement, does this kind of mean they're going to bring Game Pass to other platforms years from now, right? We know Phil's talked about a game streaming service that it's going to launch in 3 to 4 years. Is this something they could put on iOS, something they could put on Android, something they can put on tablets, something they can put on the Switch, something they can put on PlayStation? Where if you're on PlayStation and you subscribe to Xbox Game Pass for $10 through PSN, that you can experience those games on PSN or Nintendo Switch. It's something to think about. And a game streaming service that Phil talked about that is potentially launching in 3 years would be a way to kind of bring that to people. But those are kind of just my initial, some of the more like negative takes from this announcement. And of course, I said, I also think that this will bring actually more first-party content to Xbox users. And let me explain that for a minute. See, to me, Xbox Game Pass has now become something similar to Netflix and WWE Network. So Netflix, they produce original content, whether it's something like Bright or Stranger Things, like new TV shows. every single month, maybe a couple months apart, new reasons to keep you subscribed. And of course, they have all the older content, all the older movies, all the older TV shows in the backlog. Same thing with the WWE Network. You subscribe for $10 a month, you get all the current and future pay-per-views like WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, and stuff like that, and then you have all the older content in the backlog that you can watch. Now I see Xbox Game Pass as something very similar to that. The new content is the Xbox first-party games. The Halos, the Gears, the Sea of Thieves, the State of Decay 2s, right? That is all brand new content. And of course, all the older games are now the backlog. So in order to keep people to subscribe and to keep them wanting to keep their yearly subscription, you have to provide them content, which is something that Netflix and WWE do so well. There's a new pay-per-view every single month on WWE, and there's always some new content coming out on Netflix. So Microsoft has to, if they're adopting that approach, they have to put up content that people want. And that the only place to get it is Game Pass. So I actually kind of think that this is going to make Xbox produce more exclusives and first-party content. Otherwise, there's no value in Xbox Game Pass going forward. So I actually think this move to Xbox Game Pass will provide Xbox with, more revenue to produce more games so they can get more people to subscribe to their service. Because if they don't do that, then everybody's just going to cancel and it all blows up in their faces. Another thing is like how Netflix does all this stuff is there's like a general pool of revenue that all these shows bring in from all the different subscriptions, and none of the shows are really kind of judged by their individual performance. In fact, Netflix has kept shows running longer than they probably should have just because they want to produce the content. So now in a scenario where if you have this pool of just revenue from Game Pass subscriptions, something like Sea of Thieves or State of Decay 2, who maybe normally wouldn't be a success by themselves individually in a $60 retail market, but within this pool of revenue you get from Game Pass, maybe the game becomes a success. Maybe it gets a sequel, because what some of the concerns Xbox gamers have had is, where's Rise 2? Where's Sunset Overdrive? Where are those games that came out in the beginning of the gen that didn't sell well? Quantum Break, for example. But now you got to think, well, if Quantum Break had launched in something like this, where the performance of an individual title isn't weighted as much as it used to be, maybe Microsoft could have done a Quantum Break 2 like this. It's something to think about, and it's something I was thinking about when I wanted to make this video. And I know this video is getting a little bit long, but there's no understating about how significant this is. I guarantee you Sony and Nintendo are looking at this with, what is Microsoft up to? Like, we need to probably think about something like this, because this has potentially huge, like, big industry-changing stuff. And just think, like, what if Microsoft also goes to a third-party developer and inks some deal? What if they went to Ubisoft and threw a bunch of money at Ubisoft and made and said, hey, for this, we'll give you X amount of money, and all Ubisoft games released on Xbox, released in Game Pass day one. Microsoft could potentially do something like that to even drive Game Pass higher. And maybe one of these publishers are willing to take that chance for a huge payout. This is just so mind-bogglingly huge that even me, like, I'm just spitballing here. I'm just looking at my notes, thinking about all the things I thought of. The video game industry is changing right before our eyes. You had Sony announce God of War today, and that trailer looks amazing. And then you have Microsoft announcing how they're basically publishing all their games going forward. And what does this do for Best Buy, GameStop? I mean, I saw GameStop stock price took a hit because that goes against their whole used games business model. It's an amazing time to be in the games industry, but also scary because this could potentially blow up in Microsoft's face. And if it blows up in Microsoft's face, who knows? The budget and investments gets cut in it, and then they have less for other things, and maybe Xbox goes away. But it's a daring move. It's a bold strategy. And I can't wait to see how this continues, how it grows. I mean, I don't know what else to really say other than I want to know what you guys think. Are you excited for this? Are you really looking forward to Game Pass now and some of these Xbox exclusives for $10? I mean, if you are, let me know all your thoughts about what you think about this, because this is pretty damn huge. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, I know this one went long, but there's a ton to talk about. Make sure you leave the video a like and share this out on Twitter and all the different social medias. I would greatly appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe if you're new to the channel or if you just haven't already. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you're always notified when I drop new videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully this vertigo goes away soon so I can post some impressions about PSVR. But anyways, guys, huge news today's. Can't be understated about what Microsoft is doing. Could be good, could be bad, could be great, could be devastating. But only time will tell. All right. Have a good one, guys.